Part 41. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 401. Chapter 401, Holding a Grudge. 2 more please customize. Ho ho ho. The River King crocodile kept screaming in pain. The power of the fighting knife should not be underestimated. The bone knife couldn't penetrate its scales, but the fighting knife could easily penetrate it, and Yeju almost used the power of the totem before piercing it. If you can't even penetrate such a shop, wouldn't the scales of the River King crocodile be harder than those of the stone-armored crocodile? The River King crocodile has been shaking violently, and its limbs are preparing to turn over and throw the wolf-eared girl down. But before it could completely turn over, the wolf-eared girl had already gathered her strength to take away the fighting knife and jumped off her back. Boom! Just when Yeju jumped away, the River King crocodile successfully turned over, but there was no one behind it. The River King crocodile is very bulky, and although it runs very fast, it is really clumsy when turning over. When he turned over, he fell into after entering the water, his big yellow belly was exposed, and his limbs were flipping, preparing to flip back over again. Shahong had already clearly seen the movements of the River King crocodile, took out a bone knife again, swung it a few times, and started to prepare for the attack. Tap tap tap. At this moment, the River King crocodile's belly is facing outward, and the belly is the most vulnerable part of the crocodile because it is not protected by scales. The cat-eared girl who doesn't have a fighting knife can only use the bone knife to attack the belly of the River King crocodile, because only attacking there can cause serious damage to the crocodile. Shahong held the bone knife and rushed towards the River King crocodile, stabbing it open the avenue. Since there was no ancient scale protection in the belly, the bone knife easily pierced the belly of the River King crocodile, and a large amount of blood instantly poured out. In just the blink of an eye, the river water around the River King crocodile was dyed red with blood. Ho ho ho! The River King crocodile screamed in pain as its belly was scratched, and kept rolling on the spot. The screams were very loud, its limbs and tail kept flapping around, and in an instant, water splashed everywhere. Just when it was about to roll over, Shahong made a nimble jump and left the area around the crocodile to avoid being affected by the other party. After the River King crocodile turned over, he continued to open his bloody mouth and rushed towards Shahong with a look of unwillingness to give up. Nothing else, because only the cat-eared girl caused it the most damage, and its belly was completely scratched. Ho ho ho! Tap tap tap! Although the River King crocodile was seriously injured in his stomach, he was not slow at all when running. The limbs were crawling rapidly, and they were always attacking in the direction of the cat-eared girl. The boss opened his mouth like a black hole, trying to suck the opponent in. Shahong would definitely not sit still and wait for death. She was agile and had already bent her knees and jumped out of the danger zone. When the River King crocodile rushed over, it used its huge claws and thick tail. With a paw, the water on the river was splashed away, revealing the appearance of soil. When the tail swung over, a lot of river water splashed away, and even the mud in the river and the piranha were thrown away for a long distance. If these 2 attacks were to attack a person, the consequences would be disastrous. If not dead, he would probably be disabled. Seeing that he couldn't catch Shahong, the River King crocodile turned around and rushed in the direction of Yeju. He also opened his bloody mouth and waved his huge tail. Tap tap tap! Ho ho ho! Yeju was already prepared and jumped towards the open space, perfectly avoiding the attack. The same thing happened when those 2 attacks landed. They were very powerful and the lethality could be said to be 100%. Be careful, it looks like this crocodile has lost its mind, Shahong warned. Don't worry, there's nothing to fear from the irrational beast. Yeju shook the fighting knife in his hand and prepared to launch an offensive. It was obvious that the River King crocodile was completely angered. He endured the severe pain and continued to attack the 2 of them. But the other party had lost his mind. Tails swung wildly, and claws also grabbed whatever they saw. Usually this kind of attack is easier to avoid, and the two cat-eared girls easily evaded all attacks. Tap tap tap. Yeju wasn't just waiting for the opponent to attack. He waved the fighting knife in his hand and started running quickly. In order to ensure the integrity of the crocodile skin, she did not directly chop off the other party's tail. Instead, he jumped up high and inserted the fighting knife into the place where the crocodile was injured. Ho ho ho! The River King crocodile screamed in pain. This cut was 100 times more painful than the first cut. The wolf-eared girl did not stop attacking because of the opponent's pain. She tightly grasped the handle of the fighting knife and turned it hard. It didn't matter this turn. After the turn, the screams of the River King crocodile were even louder, and the sound could be heard clearly by the sword and the people on the shore. Shahong was not idle either, holding a bone knife and running towards the River King crocodile. He waved the bone knife in his hand towards the river and inserted it into the other side of the crocodile's head. Ho ho ho! The two men's continuous attacks overwhelmed the River King crocodile, and he screamed several times before lying on the water. Yeju put away the fighting knife in his hand and prepared to give the opponent the final blow, not allowing the opponent the slightest chance to breathe. Shahong did the same, pulling out the bone knife and preparing to stab the opponent's throat. Just when the two of them had just pulled out all their weapons, the smell of blood from the River King crocodile attracted more piranhas because the wound under its belly was constantly exuding blood, and the new wound on its head it was also bleeding continuously. Those piranhas went crazy when they smelled the blood, and rushed over in groups regardless of the situation. They only see bleeding places, because that's where they can really eat. Swish swish. Blah blah blah. The piranhas were like an army of ants, swimming towards the River King crocodile. All the piranhas opened their mouths wide, and their sharp teeth rubbed up and down, making rustling sounds. Shahong kicked away the piranhas swimming over and picked up the River King crocodile. If you don't pick up the crocodile at this time, I'm afraid it will be eaten by the piranhas. Yeju was also helping, kicking away the piranhas swimming over like crazy and trying not to let them get close. Otherwise, not only the River King crocodile will be eaten, but their own lives will be in danger. Because they were also contaminated with the blood of the River King crocodile, they had to leave quickly. Tap tap tap. The two men carried the River King crocodile and quickly left the river, placing the crocodile on the bank. Second update, please support and customize. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 402. Chapter 402, Coco's Decision. 3 more, please customize. The River King crocodile, which was as huge as a hippopotamus, was placed on the shore, and the wound in its belly was still bleeding out. There were 5 or 6 piranhas biting in the wound. They jumped up the moment the crocodile was picked up. At this moment, the piranha is flapping its tail vigorously, and its serrated mouth bites the belly of the River King crocodile and refuses to let go. Yeju patted all the piranhas away and said, "Which, do you want to take out all its skins?" The last time the wolf-eared girl was at the hunting ground, she hunted the big green snake and gave away all its skins. It came out. No need for now, in order to ensure the freshness of the meat, just take it back to the tribe and eat it at night. Subai shook his head and said. At this time, you still need to ensure the freshness of the meat. After all, it is raining now. If you peel off the skin directly, the meat will be directly exposed to the air. Yes, Yeju nodded. Subai looked at the river for a while and said, "You can continue fishing, I'm going back." He plans to go back and prepare for things after the rainy season, because half of the rainy season has passed. The remaining 10 days are neither too fast nor too slow. Everything must be arranged first. The most important thing is the house. Although there are now more than a dozen cement houses, it is far from enough. 2/3 of the houses in the entire tribe must be replaced with cement houses before the big ice and snow. Only cement houses can truly. You can also see the attacks of wild beasts and some emergencies. Although the wooden house is better than the tent, no matter how good it is not better than a house made of stone. After the cement house has been arranged, it is necessary to arrange the avenue after the roads are paved. We can't have cement houses everywhere and then the land is covered with muddy dirt roads, right? Good. Yanhua and the others nodded, planning to catch them for a while and then follow them back to the tribe. Tap tap tap. Sudbai held an umbrella, followed by the fox-eared girl and the blonde girl, and they began to walk towards the tribe. More than half an hour later, they returned to the cement house and changed out of their clothes that were soaked by the rain. After Sudbai took a sip of hot tea, he began to walk to his seat and think about the next work. It is expected that there will be heavy ice and snow in the next month or so, so we need to consider the issue of keeping warm. In addition to these, there is also the issue of food. He went to the sheep pen 2 days ago. I found that the sheep and cows brought back from the hunting ground have already started giving birth. It is estimated that when the heavy ice and snow comes, there will be another wave. Because there were so many cows and sheep brought back, many of them were female, so the different production cycles of each sheep should last for a while. He took out the paper and began to draw the pattern of the carriage. It would be inconvenient for such a large tribe to not have a carriage. Walking on 2 legs alone takes a long time, and if you carry something on your back, it will take even more time. If there were horse-drawn carriages or ox carts at this time, the speed of travel and the efficiency of doing things would be greatly improved. Wu, what are you drawing? Yu Ying asked curiously. In the past, the fox-eared girl used to sew linen clothes in the corner, but now she is sitting opposite Sudbai and sewing. It's not that her status has become higher, but that the relationship between the two of them is slowly getting better and better. The fox-eared lady is no longer as trembling as before and is very afraid of doing something wrong. Now she is more cheerful and will not be as scared as a mouse crossing the street when seeing a witch. No, but she started to be generous. As she became familiar with her, she had a smile on her face every day, and she was completely the same person as before. Even the cat-eared girl and the horned girl were surprised when they saw it, thinking about the past. How did the submissive little girl become so lively? Of course, it is still impossible to completely change into another person, and sometimes I still feel a little worried. I'm drawing transportation, Sudbai said without raising his head. For primitive tribes, this should be regarded as the first official means of transportation. As long as you have a carriage, everything will be much more convenient. Maybe you can also use a carriage to go to other tribes. Of course. This carriage may only be popular in the tribe for a while. When people from other tribes discover it later, they will start to imitate it. But Sudbai's secret weapon is not only this, he is also planning some bigger ones in his mind. Of transportation? What is means of transportation? This is the first time Yu Ying heard such a long unfamiliar word. You will know by then that it will also be useful for the development of the tribe. Sudbai didn't want to make it too clear. After all, there was a blonde girl next to her. Although she said she had no memory, she didn't know which tribe she came from. What was my character like? What if she knew? If you know some secrets of the Yanlong tribe, it will not be good for the development of the Yanlong tribe. Although it is not fatal to the Yanlong tribe, it is not special. What Sudbai wants is special sex, things that other tribes don't have. Yanlong tribe has them all. Only in this way can we attract more people to Yanlong tribe, which will be of great benefit to the development of the tribe. No one knows who the people attracted will be. If they can, it is naturally best to attract some talents. It is also good to attract labor if you cannot attract talents. What the Yanlong tribe lacks most now is labor. If there is enough labor, then the entire tribe wants to build cement houses, and it doesn't matter if we build it before the big snow comes. Okay, Then I won't disturb whose work. Yu Ying continued to lower her head and started sewing linen clothes. Coco squatted down, suddenly looked serious, and asked which, can I stay in the tribe? The blonde girl has been thinking about it for a long time in the past few days. Although she has lost her memory and doesn't know where she comes from, during the time she lived in the Yanlong tribe, she has slowly begun to like this tribe. As for whether she can thinking of the lost memories is not that important to her. If she can stay in this tribe and start a new life, it is not bad. What's more, there are too many magical things in this tribe that she wants to explore. I think about this question every night when I sleep in bed. Why does this thing do this, and why does that thing do this? And how is this kind of thing made? Then how is that thing made? All of this fascinated her, and sometimes she would even think about it until 4 or 5 o'clock in the night before going to bed. Third update, please support and customize. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 403. Chapter 403, Shocking Reply. 4 more please customize. Sudbai was stunned for a moment, raised his eyebrows slightly and asked what's wrong? Don't you want to go back to the original place? Coco shook her head and said it's not that I don't want to, it's just that I can't remember and I forgot. What? We'll always think of it, Sudbai comforted. Since I still don't have the slightest memory after so many days, maybe I am rejecting this memory deep in my heart. It's okay if I can't remember it, Coco said seriously. The blonde girl felt that it didn't matter anymore. If she had to think of Lee's words in the past few days, she should have remembered them long ago. Since she can't remember it in her heart, it's better not to come. No one will I know whether the memory I forgot is good or bad. What if it is bad? Is it harmful to the Yanlong tribe? Then how should I face the person who saved me? And this tribe is so good, I can't bear to destroy this place and leave here. Have you really decided? Sudbai felt that what the other party said was not unreasonable. It was just a short-term amnesia. Who would have thought that such a long time had passed and he still didn't remember it? Recently, he saw that the blonde girl was really too studious, asking all kinds of questions, all kinds of things. Curious. Of course, the questions were all about things that had nothing to do with the tribe, and were also things that she could know. What I didn't expect was that the blonde girl was so eager to learn, and she asked some very profound questions, which could be said to be about chemistry, natural things. For example, why do people breathe? What is breathed in and what is spit out? Or why is it raining? Where does the water come from? Is it a witch god in the sky? The witchcraft performed, etc. Sudbai is also considering that if the girl is really smart, it would be good to train her to become a chemist. The development of the tribe is indispensable for chemistry. If anyone is interested in this aspect, train her well. It's not impossible. But the origin of the other party is really unclear. No one knows where the other party is from, what kind of person he is, whether he is safe or not, etc. I have decided, even if my memory is restored, I want to stay in the Yanlong tribe, and I want to learn to read, Coco said firmly. The expression on the blonde girl's face did not waver at all, and her golden eyes did not blink, showing a very serious light. If your tribe needs you, and if you are the witch of the tribe or the daughter of a witch, I am afraid it is not up to you. Sudbai was still rational. Coco was stunned by the question and was stunned for a while. She didn't know what to say. She took a few deep breaths and thought, it doesn't matter, I am willing to stay here. The blonde girl still decided to stay in the Yanlong tribe. There is everything she wanted here. Sudbai took a sip of hot tea and said seriously, don't make a decision in a hurry. You won't be in a hurry to make a decision when you recover your memory. The Flame Dragon tribe is waiting for you at any time. He doesn't want the blonde girl to make a decision too quickly. Everything has to wait until the other party recovers his memory. Just like what he said, no one knows the specific identity of the blonde girl. If the other party is an indispensable person in the tribe, then stay here. The Yanlong tribe will only make the two tribes at odds with each other. It will make the other tribe mistakenly think that it is holding the blonde girl hostage. Then some unnecessary war will break out and it will be a headache. But I want to learn more. I know what the witch is worried about, as long as I become a member of the tribe, Coco said seriously. The blonde girl is not a fool. Of course she knows that her origins are unknown. If you want to learn something, who knows whether your purpose is pure or not? She is also a sensible person and does not want to embarrass the other party, so if she becomes, wouldn't it be better for tribal people to learn things again? That's not what I mean. What I mean is that you don't have to make a decision in a hurry. I can still teach you what you want to learn. Subai put down the teacup and said. But in his heart, he had to admire the blonde girl. She knew so much at a young age and had the courage to make decisions. It's just that the other party was not a reserve warrior or a totem warrior. If she was a warrior, maybe she will be even more different. Coco was stunned again. She didn't expect to get this answer. She fantasized many times about being rejected or accepted, but she didn't expect it to be this compromise answer. Her mouth opened after a while. He asked, "Which, is this true? Would you like to teach me?" The blonde girl feels that the witches of this tribe are too different. Apart from being young, the most important thing is that this person is too friendly. They don't look like witches at all. In her impression, witches are old-fashioned, old, serious, and inviolable. But the witch I see now is very different from the witch I remembered. He is young, handsome, temperamental, and very magical. Yes, it is magical. This adjective is not found in other witches. Coco thinks this young man is amazing. He is so powerful and smart at a young age, and he can lead the tribe to what it is now. Everything is incredible. Of course, when did I lie to others? Subai nodded seriously. It's not a big deal for him to train the blonde girl first. There is still a lot to learn anyway. After all, the other party is illiterate, and there are rehearsals for literacy alone, not to mention chemistry, nature, etc. In short, everything starts with learning how to write, and then the next things can be done well. The cat-eared girl, the fox-eared girl, and the horned girl are all the same, and now they all focus on literacy. Coco didn't know what to say for a while. What's the matter? He was stunned, and his golden eyes kept blinking. Subai didn't say anything, and gave the other party time to think about it. Anyway, this shock was quite big. Fourth update, please support and customize. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 404. Chapter 404, Become a Staple Food. One more request for customization. The rain in the Yanlong tribe is still falling, and the rain is getting heavier and heavier, and it is beginning to reach the end of the rainy season. Yuying put away her umbrella and put it aside, and then started walking towards the second floor. She went to see the vegetables in the greenhouse early in the morning. I also went to see the conditions of the cattle and sheep in the sheep pen and the cattle pen, because some time ago I found that some cattle and sheep were pregnant again. Which, our sheep has given birth to a lamb, Yuying shouted happily. The fox-eared lady ran from the stairs to the living room, wagging her fox-tail, and kept shouting that the sheep had given birth to lambs. Her face was full of happiness and surprise, even though there were sheep and cows before. She has given birth once before, but she witnessed it with her own eyes this morning, so it felt particularly different. Haven't you given birth before? Why are you so happy this time? Subai asked. This morning I saw with my own eyes the ewe giving birth to 3 lambs. Yuying was still dancing while she was talking. As soon as the fox-eared lady opened the door of the sheepfold, she saw the ewe giving birth to the first lamb. The feeling of witnessing it with your own eyes is different. What happens next? I also saw with my own eyes that the ewe was licking off the lambs after birth. Then the other two lambs gave birth, and the fox-eared lady also watched the whole process, but she didn't get too close because she didn't dare to disturb them. Oh! Have you ever witnessed the birth of a lamb? Sudbai's thick black eyebrows raised slightly. He has never seen the birth of a certain animal last year. He raised a kitten before. Although the kitten was pregnant, he has not seen the birth of the kitten yet. He traveled through time. Woo, do you want to go take a look? Those lambs are really cute, Yu Ying asked happily. The fox-eared lady was very happy because she saw the birth of the lamb. She may be happy all day today. Sudbai thought for a moment and nodded, stood up and said, let's go, then go take a look. It just so happens that I have to use the plant growth technique on those vegetables today. His daily exercise is to walk from the cement house to the greenhouse. Despite this, their bodies are getting better and better. From the initial changes in energy to the subsequent physical changes, these are all visible to the naked eye. Tap tap tap. Everyone left the cement house holding umbrellas and walked towards the greenhouse, wanting to see how the vegetables were growing first. Half an hour later, Sudbai came to the greenhouse and saw the tomatoes at first sight. He found that the tomatoes had bloomed, and dense yellow flowers appeared on the green plants. And there are a lot of flowers, each one has a lot of them, and it looks like a lot of tomatoes are going to grow. But it probably has nothing to do with the soil quality, otherwise it would have grown faster. It must have been because of the plant growth spell that was used before, so it grew faster and had more flowers. It bloomed so quickly, much shorter than expected. Sudbai nodded with satisfaction. He remembered that when he came to see it yesterday, there were not even flowers and bones, but they bloomed directly today. If we continue with this display, we will be able to harvest fresh tomatoes tomorrow. I thought something was wrong, but it turned out that it was blooming, Yu Ying said thoughtfully. When Fox-Ear Girl came to see her in the morning, she noticed that the tomatoes were blooming, but how could she know it as she had never seen a tomato before? She thought that Wu would come over to see it later. Ask him what's wrong again. Just wait, we'll have tomatoes soon, Sudbai said with a smile, already thinking about how to make tomatoes. Like tomato scrambled eggs, tomato egg drop soup, or tomato fried meat with fungus, tomato panesedum noodles, etc. There are so many foods that can be made with tomatoes. Okay, and the main taste is sweet and sour, and it also has anti-stress, appetizing, and digestion effects. In short, it is a good agricultural product. What does a tomato look like? Coco blinked her golden eyes and continued to ask, why can you eat it after it blooms? The blonde girl has more problems. I don't know if it's because of the loss of memory. In short, there are many strange things and I want to know why. The main reason why tomatoes bloom is because the flowers are their reproductive organs, ahem. Sudbai coughed a few times, but it was too straightforward to say it directly. He continued to say euphemistically, if you want to bear fruit, you must bloom. This is the law of nature. Flowering is the main way for them to reproduce. It turns out that that aspect of plants is flowering, which is different from us, right? Keek said thoughtfully. It can be understood this way. Sudbai nodded lightly. He turned around and walked towards the wheat, wanting to see how the wheat that had been sown before was doing. Tap tap tap. He saw that the wheat was growing very well. It had grown very tall, and the whole field looked green and beautiful. If you walk over, you can already reach a person's calf. Looking at the growth, it will start to bear fruit in a few days. As expected, the plant growth technique is very convenient and greatly shortens the time. Sudbai murmured to himself with satisfaction. If he didn't have this skill, I'm afraid these plants would have to wait for a month or two. Before he had this skill, he originally considered whether to dig some from other places. Use the soil for farming. After all, that soil can greatly reduce the growth cycle of plants. If you don't have plant growth skills, it would be good to get some soil to plant crops. Although it will be a bit troublesome, who doesn't want the growth cycle of crops shorter? Woo, when can we eat wheat? Yu Ying asked curiously. Every time Fox Ear Girl came to the greenhouse, she could see different changes in the plants. First, there were nothing in the seeds sown, and then they slowly sprouted and grew up now. All these she sees everything, so now she feels a sense of intimacy every time she enters the greenhouse. Maybe in another 7 or 8 days, it won't be long before we can eat wheat, Subai said. There are many things that can be done with wheat. On the earth, it is one of the 3 major cereals. Almost all of it is used for food. Only about 1/6 is used as feed. And after wheat is ground into flour, it can also be used as food. It can be used to make bread, biscuits, noodles, and other foods. If used for fermentation, it can also be made into beer, alcohol, or biomass fuel. What would wheat taste like? Yu Ying began to think about the taste of wheat. Niang had heard about Wushuo wheat before, and said that the taste of this crop is very good. It will become something we will eat every day in the future, Subai smiled and said. Please update for support and customization. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 405. Chapter 405, Goat Milk. 2 more, please customize. What primitive tribes lack now is staple food. They eat meat, meat, meat every day. Eating too much meat will make you tired, not to mention that you will lose physical strength. If you want to have physical strength, you must replenish carbohydrates. Rice, bread, etc. are the main sources of carbohydrates, especially for soldiers, who need to supplement them. Although there is now painazidum noodle, painazidum is not as good as wheat. It can be regarded as a coarse grain at best. Something to eat every day? Can this replace meat? Yu Ying said in surprise. This does not replace meat, but is eaten together with meat, which is equivalent to meat being supplementary and wheat being main, Subai explained. Yu Ying nodded thoughtfully, but she didn't quite understand. Subai walked over to look at the potatoes. He had used plant growth techniques on them these days. He found that the potatoes had grown very big. Not only had they sprouted, they had also grown a lot taller, about 15 centimeters. It looks like the potatoes will be harvested soon, Subai nodded with satisfaction. If we continue at this speed, many things can begin to be arranged. With potatoes, wheat, and tomatoes, the tribe can begin to arrange planting. Subai plans to wait until the heavy ice and snow passes. Start vigorously developing agriculture. The development of a tribe is inseparable from this. Agriculture can make the entire tribe self-sufficient. There is no need to worry about hunting in the hunting ground every day. This not only wastes time, but also makes people who go hunting feel uncomfortable. It's dangerous. But if agriculture develops rapidly, the benefits to the tribe will not be low. He plans to save some seeds of tomatoes, potatoes, and wheat this time. And then conduct another experiment with these crops. After all, these crops are those who have been subjected to plant growth spells. No one knows what will happen to their seeds when they are used for planting again. It would be great if they could grow as fast as the original body. Great, I can eat a lot of delicious food then. Yu Ying happily shook her foxtail. Let's go to the sheepfold and see the lambs, and the calves failed and walked out of the greenhouse first. Tap tap tap. Everyone held umbrellas and arrived at the sheepfold. The sheepfold was only a minute or 2 away from the greenhouse. Crunch. Yu Ying took the lead in opening the door of the sheepfold, then walked in and drove the sheep aside to leave an open space. Subai stepped in and smelled a strong smell as soon as he entered. The smell of sheep manure is overwhelming. He subconsciously covered his mouth and nose, and before he could get used to it, he asked, "Didn't someone come and clean it regularly?" He found that there was a lot of sheep dung inside, and the hay was also placed in a mess. It was a disaster. "Someone will come and clean it every 2 days," Yu Ying said. "From now on, let people clean it once a day to make sure it is clean, otherwise it will be unhygienic for the sheep to live in, and the smell of the sheep pen will be very strong," Subai warned. "Yes, I understand," Yu Ying immediately responded. "Also, hay or fresh fodder should also be placed in a fixed location in the future." Subai glanced around and continued, "Let the hills build some feed troughs and put their food in the feed troughs. Otherwise, all the fodder will be left in the place, and the sheep will eat it after trampling on it. This is not only unhygienic, but also very likely to make them sick. He doesn't want the cattle and sheep to get sick before the breeding industry has started." They all got sick and died, which was a bit of a loss. After all, they were brought all the way from the hunting grounds. "Wu, what is a feed trough?" Yu Ying said doubtfully. "It's like a pot, but it's long. Just put the grass in it. I'll go back and give you the design later, and you can just show it to the hill," Subai said softly. "I see." Yu Ying nodded. Subai continued to scan the surroundings and found that except for the 2 points he just saw, there were no other problems. He knelt down and looked at the newly born lambs. They were so cute. It's so good that people can't help but want to touch it. So cute. Coco was also captured by this cute little creature. "Xiao, Coco, do you want to drink goat milk?" Subai stood up and asked. He saw that there were many ewes with a lot of milk. Those lambs couldn't drink as much as you. If they didn't squeeze some out, they would be a little uncomfortable. These lambs today, including the previous lambs, there are 13 lambs in total. There are 6 ewes with milk and water, and some lambs have begun to eat grass instead of milk and water. "Drink goat milk?" Yu Ying was stunned for a moment and continued to ask, "Wu, can we drink?" "I've never drank goat's milk." Coco shook his head. Subai glanced at the sheepfold and said with a smile, "Xiao, bring me a clean basin." He wanted to squeeze some goat milk himself. This was delicious food that could not be wasted. It would also become one of the tribe's iconic delicacies in the future. "Good." Yu Ying nodded immediately and ran away quickly. Coco looked confused and asked, "Why do you want to take the basin? Goat milk is not directly." The blonde girl couldn't say anything. All she was thinking was that she could be just like those lambs. Why did she need to bring a basin? What was this? "You will know when you get it. If you drink it like a lamb, you will be kicked by the ewe," Subai said with a smile. When he saw the blonde girl's appearance, of course he knew what the other party was thinking. "Is that feasible?" "All right." Keek nodded in understanding, and his golden eyes immediately looked at those lambs. Tap tap tap. Yu Ying put the umbrella aside, took out a large clean wooden basin, and said, "Wu, I washed it." "Good." Subai took the wooden basin and walked to the ewe. He first gave the ewe some hay. Then he reached out to comfort the ewe. After the ewe calmed down, he put the wooden basin under the ewe's belly. Because it was the domestication skill was used, so the ewe was still very docile and not restless at all. Subai washed his hands first, then squatted on the side of the ewe, stretched out his hand and started to squeeze the goat's milk. Since he had seen similar TV on the other side of the earth, there are also books, and he still knows the importance and technique of starting. Subai used his thumb and the palm of his hand to hold the ewe's udder and lift it up, so that the udder would fall into the teat. Then he would use his thumb press the tiger's mouth tightly to prevent the milk and water from flowing back when squeezing. Then squeeze back and forth with 4 fingers to keep the milk and water flowing out. Repeat this process and it will be fine. Wow! Under Subai's operation, the goat's milk water fell into the wooden basin bit by bit like a water gun. Second update, please support and customize. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 406. Chapter 406, The Beast-Eared Girl is Eager to Try. 3 more please customize. Yuying immediately widened her pink eyes and looked at the scene in surprise. This was incredible. She had never seen the scene before, and she never expected that goat milk could still be expressed. Is this how goats are milked? Yuying said in surprise. The ewe is so docile and doesn't even resist. Coco was also very surprised. This was incredible. Subai continued to squeeze the goat's milk and said with a smile, milk is also okay. The taste of the 2 types of milk is different. He continued to squeeze the milk up and down with his hands, and the movements of his hands were very skillful. After a few brushes, a lot of white goat milk had been squeezed into the wooden basin, and it looked very white. It smells pretty good too. Yuying immediately smelled the rich milk fragrance. The fox-eared lady was so happy that the fox's tail kept wagging and her delicate nose kept blowing. Yes, it tastes so good and it tastes delicious. Coco also thought it smelled good. Subai waved his hand, stood up and asked, do you want to try it? It's very fun. Yuying immediately widened her pink eyes and said in disbelief, really? Woo, can I really give it a try? I want to try it too. Coco also looked eager to try. Come on, just do what I just did, Subai said softly. When he was squeezing the goat's milk, he roughly told the girls the reason for squeezing the goat's milk. Okay, I'll give it a try. Yuying looked eager to give it a try, and began to walk to the ewe and squat down. She also washed her hands before squatting down, and then reached out to express milk in a decent manner. Swish swish swish. The fox-eared lady's little hands worked a few times, and the goat's milk came out a little from time to time, but not as much as when Subai squeezed it out. And it's very unfamiliar when I squeeze it out. When I squeeze it out, it's often empty, and it feels like I'm squeezing out air. Woo, why do I feel like I can't squeeze anything out? Yuying looked embarrassed and stretched out her hands with a look of helplessness. The fox-eared girl followed the operation for a long time, but she often couldn't squeeze out at any time. Ha ha ha, that's because your method of operation is wrong and your exertion is wrong, Subai said with a smile. Then let me give it a try. Coco also washed her hands and looked eager to try. Do you know how to do it? Subai asked. Keek nodded repeatedly and said, I was watching it carefully just now, so I'll give it a try. Subai nodded. The blonde girl walked to the ewe and squatted down, and then started to operate in a decent manner. She reached out to squeeze the goat's milk, and the goat's milk appeared from time to time. There was no formation like when Subai was milking goats. Others came out in a swish manner, but he came out little by little. Woo, why can't I squeeze out here? Coco asked curiously. Subai smiled slightly and said, come on, let me demonstrate to you. Remember the essentials. He saw that the girls were very unfamiliar with their movements when milking the goats, and their movements were also very bad. The ewes were a little restless from being squeezed, and they kept walking around in place, looking very uneasy. He sat down and began to demonstrate to the girls the essentials of milking goats, taking every step with great care. The first thing Subai did was to take a hot towel and start scrubbing the goat's milk, because scrubbing before milking is important. Just make sure it is clean and hygienic. Then he explained the next actions to the girls in detail, including various essentials and actions to be done. Do you know how to do it? Subai stood up and asked. When he was doing it, goat's milk suddenly appeared. The wooden basin was full of goat's milk again, and it was white and exuding the fragrance of goat's milk. I learned it, I'll try again, Yuying said immediately. She had just watched it very seriously. She still wanted to learn this knowledge and thought this operation was very interesting. It was the first time she had seen such an interesting thing. Okay, remember to control your strength and don't hurt the ewes, Subai warned. Yeah, I learned. Yu Ying nodded heavily and came to the U again. The fox-eared lady stretched out her hands with an expectant look on her face and began to operate seriously. Swish swish swish. The goat's milk comes out in an instant, and it comes out very quickly. A lot of goat's milk can be squeezed out every time. Squeezed out, Yu Ying said happily, thinking this was really incredible. The fox-eared lady looked at the white goat's milk in the wooden basin and couldn't restrain the smile on her face. I learned quickly, and from then on I was able to drink a glass of goat milk every morning. Subai smiled and said. Okay, I squeeze some back in every morning, Yu Ying said happily immediately. Coco had just finished washing her hands, and she said eagerly, it's my turn. The blonde girl happily squatted next to the U and started operating according to the method she just learned. Swish swish swish. After the blonde girl performed the operation, the goat milk was squeezed out smoothly, and it was very smooth. I squeezed it out too. Coco also had a look of surprise on her face. This feeling is so comfortable. Being able to see the goat's milk being squeezed out without any resistance from the U is so satisfying. You guys learned very quickly, and it's really amazing that you can pick it up the second time, Subai said with a smile. He was praising from the bottom of his heart. The girls are really smart and their hands are very dexterous. They can get started immediately. Woo, what else can you do with this goat's milk besides drinking it? Yu Ying asked curiously. Drinking goat milk can improve your health, and goat milk can also be used to make desserts, so it is a good raw material, Subai said. You can make fried goat milk, goat cheese, or make some goat milk delicacies, and they will taste good. Yu Ying blinked her pink eyes and asked expectantly, Woo, when the time comes can you teach me? The fox-eared lady still wants to make some delicacies for the witches to eat, and they are also some novel foods. These foods are also very delicious. She is willing to do it. Of course, I will teach you when I get back, Subai smiled and said. Woo, should we go see the cows? There are also cows giving birth to calves, Yu Ying suggested. Well, cow's milk can also be squeezed, and the taste is different from goat's milk, Subai said with a smile. It's really cool to be able to get two kinds of milk in one day, which adds a lot of color to the life of primitive tribes. Okay, I'm going to give it a try too. Yu Ying's pink foxtail kept wagging. The fox-eared lady likes to do this kind of thing so much. She thinks this is very interesting. She has never done it before. Third update, please support and customize. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 407. Chapter 407, Tomato. One more, please customize. The sky was like a big hole, and the rain kept falling on me. Yu Ying walked back from the greenhouse holding an umbrella. She held the umbrella in one hand and the wooden basket in the other. The wooden basket was filled with red tomatoes, and those tomatoes were very big. Moreover, the bright red skin is still covered with water droplets. The crystal clear water droplets look particularly beautiful on the red skin of tomatoes. The overall feeling given out makes people feel that the whole tomatoes are very fresh. By a rough count, there are a dozen tomatoes in total, and they were ripe this morning. When the fox-eared girl was looking at the greenhouse, she saw a bright red spot as soon as she entered. When she walked over, she realized that the tomatoes were ripe. The fox-eared lady had heard Subai say that as long as the tomatoes turn red, they are considered ripe and can be picked. I don't know if it tastes good or not. Yu Ying lowered her head and looked at the tomatoes in the basket. The fox-eared lady was in a very excited mood. She was so happy when she saw the tomatoes ripening. Ever since the tomatoes were planted, the fox-eared lady has been looking forward to them ripening. Of course she was happy that it was finally ripe. But the fox-eared lady was very puzzled. Why was the tomato green at first and then turned red and ready to eat? There is also a lot of goat milk and cow milk, and there is a lot of milking today, Yu Ying said happily. The fox-eared girl came to the concrete house happily, put her umbrella aside and started walking towards the second house. Tap tap tap. Woo, I'm back, Yu Ying said happily and put the tomatoes on the table. Subai just finished signing in and opened the aid package. What he got today was a pack of orange seeds. He was very happy when he saw the orange seeds. It's also good to eat fruits from the earth. Why are you so happy today? Subai asked. In fact, he was also very happy. Woo, the tomatoes are ripe. I picked them back. Take a look, Yu Ying said with a smile. The fox-eared lady took out the goat milk bottles and milk bottles on the wooden basket, and then handed over the basket of tomatoes. Subai took the wooden basket and looked at the red tomatoes inside. His lips Wei Yang said, okay, the tomatoes are ripe and ready to eat. The growth rate of these tomatoes is much faster. They are fully mature in less than 10 days. They look very big. The bright red tomatoes are very appetizing. Really? Yu Ying's pink eyes widened in surprise, and she asked curiously, Wu Ying, how should we eat these tomatoes? The fox-eared lady was very surprised by these red tomatoes and wanted to know what the tomatoes taste like. Just eat it directly, it can be eaten raw. Subai took a tomato and took a bite. When the whole big red tomato was bitten into, the tomato juice immediately poured out. The freshness was visible to the naked eye. Moreover, the big red tomatoes were very crisp, sour, and sweet, and tasted great. It was also very refreshing. Yu Ying was stunned for a moment, then took a bite of a tomato. Instantly, her pink eyes widened. The taste of tomatoes surprised her. It was the first time she tried food with this kind of texture. It tastes refreshing and sour, and the juice in the tomatoes fills your mouth with surprises. This feeling is really wonderful. This tomato, it's very yummy. Yu Ying was still biting the tomato in her mouth. The fox-eared girl was so happy that her pink fox tail kept wagging, and her face was full of satisfaction. You girls all like the taste of tomatoes, and you can also make many delicious dishes. Subai smiled and said. Cook a lot of delicious food? Aren't these fruits? Can it be used to make food? Yu Ying said in surprise. Of course, food made from tomatoes is also very good. Subai raised his thick black eyebrows. Yu Ying blinked her pink eyes and asked curiously, what can tomatoes do? You can make tomato meat sauce, panazidam noodles, tomato egg drop soup and tomato scrambled eggs, all of which taste delicious. Subai said with a smile. Tomato scrambled eggs are an enduring delicacy. Although it is very simple to make, the taste is fascinating. Tomato scrambled eggs, Yu Ying blinked her pink eyes and asked, are they fried wild eggs? Yeah, it'll taste great. Give me some eggs and I'll make one, Subai said with a smile. After saying this, he already wanted to eat tomato scrambled eggs. It has been too long since he has eaten. Good, Yu Ying immediately responded. Tap tap tap. Yanhua and Shailin walked back to the second floor from outside and patted the water stains on their shoulders. Woo, here we come, Yanhua said, waving the cat's tail. She had trained all morning this morning. The horned lady has been quite happy these 2 days, and she is also very focused on training, because she has seen many novel things in the past few days. For example, milking goats, etc. milk or plants in the greenhouse, as well as fishing by the river and other activities. Woo, what are these? Shalan saw the tomatoes in the wooden basket at a glance. Taste to see if these tomatoes are ripe and ready to eat, Subai said softly. Shalan blinked her blue eyes, picked up the tomato and looked at it for a long time, and said in surprise, is this a tomato? The cat-eared girl thought it was incredible. Weren't the leaves green when we first looked at them? Aren't the flowers also yellow? And weren't the new fruits green? Why are the tomatoes now bright red? Well, it turns red when ripe. Try it. It tastes good. Subai saw the doubts of the cat-eared lady. Is this edible directly? Yanhua asked curiously. Just eat it as it is, but make the first bite smaller so it doesn't spit out, Subai warned. If you bite too big, the juice of the tomato will spurt out directly. The juice of those tomatoes is the soul. Yanhua picked up a tomato and took a bite with a confused look on his face. His red eyes widened and he felt the taste was so shocking. She chewed it several times, swallowed it and said, "Woo, this tomato tastes so delicious, right?" "Yes, are tomatoes so delicious?" Shalan was also very shocked. The two of them ate the whole tomato in a few seconds. The taste was so fascinating. "Just take 1 or 2 pills, but don't take too many," Subai warned, because tomatoes are cold foods, eating too much at one time can easily cause diarrhea. "Why?" Yanhua asked curiously, already holding the second tomato in her hand. "Eating too much will cause diarrhea. You don't want to have to run to the toilet all the time, right?" Subai asked with a smile. Yanhua shook his head without hesitation, but still took a bite of the big red tomato in his hand. Please update for support and customization. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 408. Chapter 408, I want to do an experiment. 2 more please customize. Woo, why does this tomato taste so delicious? Shalan's cat ears kept twitching. The cat-eared girl also ate the whole tomato in 2 or 3 mouthfuls, with an expression that was still unsatisfactory. This is one of the few vegetables that can be eaten, and its unique taste is sweet and sour, Subai explained. Tomatoes are also very popular on the other side of the earth. They are very good whether eaten raw or cooked. Is this a vegetable? Yu Ying blinked her pink eyes and said in surprise, isn't this a fruit? This is a vegetable, just like the vegetables you ate before, Subai explained. Yu Ying nodded thoughtfully and handed over the wild eggs she had just brought. Woo, I brought them for you. Subai nodded, picked up the wild eggs and knocked them into the big bowl one by one. Then he started to cut a lot of tomato pieces, and deliberately cut the tomatoes into smaller pieces. Woo, what are you doing? Yanhua fiddled with her long black hair and continued to ask, does the witch want to cook? Well, let me make you a tomato scrambled egg dish, Subai said softly and continued to operate the things on the chopping board. The chopping board was also made of ancient wood. A large piece of wood was very thick. It was specially selected and sawn from the best trees. After that, he began to make many tools. These tools are all. Needless to say, they are all used in the kitchen. For example, chopsticks, bowls, and plates. There are also some other things. What are tomato scrambled eggs? Which, are you using these wild eggs to fry those tomatoes? Yanhua guessed based on the literal meaning. Well, that's what it means, just wait and eat. Subai first put the beaten wild eggs into the pot and stir-fried. When the wild eggs began to turn golden brown, he took them out. Finally, he put the tomatoes in and stir-fried until the tomatoes could be fried. When cooked, add a little salt to taste. Brush, brush, brush. The spatula collided with the iron pot, making a constant rustling sound. When the tomatoes were almost ready, I poured in the wild eggs that had been fried in advance. Subai mixed the two together and stir-fried, and finally squeezed in a piece of lanhai juice as a finishing touch, stir-fried a few times and put it on the plate. He put the plate of tomato scrambled eggs on the table and said, okay, you all have a try and see how it tastes. Yu Ying handed over a pair of chopsticks and said softly, Woo, you can eat first. Fox-eared lady, they didn't dare to use their chopsticks first. They had to eat first. No one would forget the rule. Subai nodded lightly, took the chopsticks, put a piece of wild egg into his mouth, and said with satisfaction, it tastes better than anything I've eaten before. It might be because of the ingredients, or because he hasn't eaten it for a long time. I think this plate of tomato scrambled eggs is really delicious. However, it is most likely due to the ingredients. The tomatoes here are natural and pollution-free, and they are very large and sweet. Wild eggs are also wild, not small in size, and naturally taste different from ordinary eggs. Woo, have you eaten it before? Yu Ying asked curiously, and the scent of tomatoes and eggs floated into the fox-eared girl's nose. You should try it too, you will be stunned. Subai saw that fox-eared girl and the others had not moved their chopsticks. Yu Ying nodded heavily, and after receiving the permission, she picked up a piece of tomato egg with her chopsticks and started eating. The horned lady and the cat-eared girls also picked up their chopsticks and started eating the tomato scrambled eggs. The taste of this tomato scrambled egg, it's so delicious. Coco was very shocked. The blonde girl liked this taste so much. She thought the taste was so perfect. It was sour and sweet and delicious. I didn't expect that two completely unrelated things could actually collide and produce something. Such delicious food. Yanhua ate several pieces without saying a word, and said with satisfaction, this tastes different from the previous food. It's delicious. I didn't expect that wild eggs could be used to make such delicacies. It's incredible. Shaylin is so delicious that the cat's tail keeps wagging. The beast-eared girl is so direct. When she eats delicious food or is happy, she uses her tail to express it. If humans on the other side of the earth still have their tails and have not evolved, it will probably be a very interesting scene. Think about it, if everyone has a tail, the expression of happiness or unhappiness will appear on the tail. If a person likes someone, doesn't the tail keep wagging? People behave as if they are extremely happy. So if a person is suddenly unhappy or sick, will his tail suddenly droop? And when everyone goes out, will they not hold hands, but hold their tails? The tail is gone? Who knows? If you like it, you can try it yourself, it's very simple. Subai said softly. Woo, I just want to try it tonight. Finally, I don't have to just eat meat, Yu Ying said happily. The fox-eared lady still liked eating meat at first. Who didn't like it among the primitive tribes? But it has changed since the arrival of the witch. It's not just meat, but also various kinds of meat. Food, such as panesedum noodles, mushroom delicacies, etc., these are all that people can't stop craving. Okay, let me teach you how to make some other things. You can have something different at night. Subai smiled and said. Good, Yu Ying responded immediately. Fox-ear girl likes to learn how to cook new dishes. Not only can she eat delicious food, but she can also learn new things. Subai blinked his black eyes, took out tomatoes and continued to give them to fox-ear girl. Explain other ways to make tomatoes. Pitter-patter. The rain outside the window is still falling without any signs of abating, and there are only a few days left until the end of the rainy season. After Subai finished teaching Beast-Ear Girl how to cook, he drove to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked at the scenery outside the window from a distance. Although it is foggy everywhere, you can only see the confused tribes under the rain curtain. But this kind of scene may not be a beautiful scenery, but it has a hazy and beautiful feeling. Woo, can you teach me to do some experiments? I want to learn, Coco asked suddenly. The blonde girl's face looked serious, and she was very determined and serious. The sudden lightning and thunder outside the window illuminated the blonde girl's beautiful face, and her expression became even more serious. Subai was stunned. He paused, but he didn't expect the blonde girl to do it so suddenly, and it didn't look like she had been in love for 3 minutes. He turned around and asked, do you really want to learn? Coco nodded without hesitation and immediately responded, yes, Woo, I want to learn. I see. Subai nodded lightly. Unexpectedly, the chemistry thing he just mentioned a few days ago would be remembered by the girl until now. Second update, please support and customize. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 409. Chapter 409, Sign-in Rewards. 3 more, please customize. In the early morning, Subai opened his black eyes with the sound of rain pattering outside the window. He half sat up and began to stretch his waist. He worked on witch dominoes until very late last night. I was busy until about 2 o'clock before going to bed, because I felt that my hand was coming, and the witch dominoes I made were getting better and better. So I kept making it, and the fruit oil lamp was replaced with another one, and many pots of tea were made. Last night, the fox-eared girl was still sleeping next to her. She was holding a needle in her hand while she was sleeping, and her head was looking very cute little by little. Subai couldn't bear to watch Fox-Ear Girl stay up late with him, so he picked her up and placed her on the bed in Fox-Ear Girl's room. Then he went out and continued making witch dominoes. He also refilled the tea himself, but he often forgot about it. System, sign in and open the assistance package. Subai signed in silently in his heart. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully signing in. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving primary aid, the brew book. Subai looked at a book that appeared out of thin air in his hand and said in surprise, winemaking book, but it's a good thing. There are quite a lot of books published by the system recently, not only the previous herbal medicine production book, straw sandal production book and glass production book, but now there is also a winemaking book. But all the assistance packages about books are very good, almost they are all high-quality products. Everything is helpful to the development of the tribe, so he is so happy. What's more, a winemaking book has been published now, and he is worrying about how to make wine. After all, the wheat he planted is ready. After the harvest, it would be a pity not to know how to make wine. After all, wine can be regarded as a delicacy. It would be a pity if there was no wine in the tribe. Subai could not remember the details of winemaking for the time being. He only knew that wheat and grapes could be used to make wine, but I don't know the specific operation. Because winemaking is not an easy task, there are quite a lot of things to pay attention to. If one or two steps are not done well, the whole wine can easily be ruined. Today you can go and see if the wheat is ripe. If it is ripe enough, it can be used to make wine, Subai murmured to himself. When he went to the greenhouse yesterday, he found that the wheat had already set ears, and the whole plant was still a little yellow. According to the fact that there was only a little sign of flowering the day before yesterday, it turned yellow yesterday. So I should be able to mature today. Subai got up when he thought of this, stretched his body, changed his clothes and left the room. Tap tap tap. When he walked to the living room, he saw the fox-eared girl just walking in. Her shoulders were still a little wet. Woo, morning. I just came back from the greenhouse and the sheepfold, Yu Ying's soft voice sounded. How is the situation with wheat? Can it be harvested? Subai picked up a wooden cup and took a sip of water. Yu Ying thought seriously for a while and asked Wu, what does it mean to harvest wheat? Is it the same as tomatoes? The fox-eared lady didn't know what it looked like to harvest wheat. After all, it was her first time to see it. To the look of wheat. She only knew that a tomato was ripe when it turned red, so she could only think like this. Tomatoes were something she heard about later. Ha ha ha, Subai smiled heartily and said, how is it possible? When wheat matures, it turns yellow. When it turns yellow, it is mature. He was really amused by the girl's cuteness. He didn't expect that she was still so innocent. So is it possible to be mature like this? Yu Ying was a little surprised and continued, if that's the case, the wheat is already mature. When I went to the greenhouse this morning, I saw that the whole field was yellow. When Fox-Ear Girl entered the greenhouse this morning, she was a little surprised. She looked around and saw that the place where the wheat was grown was a patch of yellow and orange. At first, she thought there was something wrong with the wheat, but when she got closer, she found that it was still very bright. Yes, I thought it was a normal growth phenomenon of wheat. I didn't pay any more attention to it. I originally wanted to talk to Wu after I came back, but I was asked a question before I even opened my mouth. Okay, great, you have people harvest some and bring them back, I need them, Subai said with a smile. He originally wanted to use all this batch of wheat for food, and then save some seeds, and then replant it before making other arrangements. But now that the system has suddenly issued a brewing book, it is better to choose a day. Just test it directly. Okay, I'll go and get some harvested back now. Yu Ying nodded immediately, and then asked which, how are we going to harvest it? Pull out the whole plant. Fox-eared lady doesn't know how to harvest wheat. She has only seen how potatoes and sweet potatoes are harvested. That is to pull out the whole plant, or pick the red tomatoes like tomatoes. Just have someone hold a bone knife against the bottom of the wheat and then cut it, Professor Subai said. The method of harvesting wheat is very simple. Just harvest it close to the bottom. I know, let people go now, Yu Ying nodded and said. Tap tap tap. The fox-eared lady stepped out of the living room, wanting to find someone and at the same time try to see how to harvest wheat. More than 2 hours later, fox-eared girl and a team of workers returned to the living room carrying a lot of wheat. Wu, do you think this is the case? Yu Ying asked curiously. There was a large bundle of wheat on the floor in the living room, all harvested close to the bottom. Yes, it is like that, Subai nodded with satisfaction. What else is there to do after the harvest? Yu Ying asked curiously. Subai walked to the wheat, looked at it, and said, we still need to remove the wheat grains one by one. Yu Ying's pink eyes widened and she said in surprise, do you want to take off all the things on top one by one? The fox-eared lady thinks it's incredible. There are so many wheat grains on it. If you pick them one by one, you don't know how long it will take. Third update, please support and customize. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 410. Chapter 410, I really have to be suspicious. 4 more, please customize. Ha ha ha, of course you are not asked to pick them one by one with your hands, Subai smiled. Woo, if you don't pick it with your hands, how can you get these wheat particles out? Yu Ying asked curiously. The fox-eared lady couldn't think of any better way to get the wheat down one by one. This is not difficult. You can make a simple machine to get the wheat particles out, Subai smiled and said. Wu, are you looking for help from Uncle Gomu or Uncle Shan Shan? Yu Ying asked curiously. No need, they have already made it before, just take it out and use it, Subai shook his head. Yu Ying blinked her pink eyes and asked, oh? Is it the wooden stand that I brought over a while ago? Fox-er Niang saw someone delivered a wooden shelf a few days ago and kept it in the study. Well, that's the one where your wheat and wheat straw are separated, Subai said. Then let's move out, Yu Ying asked the people who helped move the wheat to move out the simple wooden frame. The wooden frame was also very simple. It was a tripod on both sides, a large barrel in the middle, and there were protruding sections on the barrel. There are small pieces of wood. There is a large wooden board behind the barrel as a shield, and there is a pedal under the wooden frame. In this way, a simple wheat particle separation machine is ready. Woo, is this it? Yu Ying asked curiously. Well, that's it, Subai nodded, bent down and picked up a small bundle of wheat, then stepped on the pedal, and the barrel in the middle of the wooden frame began to rotate. Buzz buzz. The drum began to rotate rapidly. Subai placed the wheat on the rotating drum. Bang bang bang. There are many small protruding wooden blocks on the rotating drum, and those wooden blocks keep rotating at high speed, and then the wheat keeps colliding with those wooden blocks. The particles on the wheat were peeled off one by the high-speed rotating wooden blocks. The wheat particles that were released fell to the ground after hitting the baffle. A large animal skin was also laid on the ground to collect fallen wheat to prevent it from flying everywhere. How amazing! Yu Ying was stunned and didn't expect that this heavy-looking machine could actually produce so much wheat. The fox-eared lady was completely surprised. She thought she was going to pick them one by one, but she didn't expect it. But it is so convenient. In this way, the wheat on the ground can be easily peeled off, which can save a lot of time. Do you want to give it a try? Subai asked with a smile. Yu Ying was stunned for a moment, then asked, is it okay, can I give it a try? Fox-eared lady wanted to give it a try, but she couldn't speak easily. She always felt that this machine seemed difficult. Of course, just do what I just did, it's not that difficult, Subai encouraged. Because when he was working on the machine, he could feel the hot gaze of the fox-eared lady, and he could clearly sense it without looking back at her. Good. Yu Ying narrowed her eyes and smiled, then she also picked up a bundle of wheat and walked to the front of the machine. Buzz buzz. Snap, snap, snap. The fox-eared girl also followed suit, but it was a bit difficult to step on the machine at first. Because it takes a lot of effort to step on the machine, and the fox-eared girl didn't think of it at first, so she almost stood up completely. Woo, the wheat is really peeling off. Yu Ying immediately smiled happily, just like a child who suddenly got a lollipop. Isn't this method much faster? Subai asked with a smile. Yu Ying nodded heavily and said with a smile, this method is so easy to use, I can work all day. Fox-eared lady likes playing with this machine so much. She finds it so interesting and magical. Peel off some first and use it, you don't need a lot, Subai said softly. There is not much wheat planted this time, most of it will be used for eating, and a small part will be reserved for further planting. So he thought that he would just brew a jar first, and it would be an experiment by the way. Let's see if it works. Anyway, with the plant growth technique, the next batch of wheat can be harvested in 10 to 20 days, and the second batch of wheat won't take long either. Good. Yu Ying nodded, continued to take the wheat and started to operate it. Such interesting things cannot be stopped. Buzz buzz. Snap, snap, snap. The fox-eared lady continued to operate for 20 minutes, during which she felt tired many times and took many breaks. Many wheat particles appeared on the animal skin. Originally, Subai wanted Fox-ear Girl to rest and let others do the work, but Fox-ear Girl liked playing with this machine very much, so she insisted on it. Woo, is this enough? Yu Ying asked curiously. Enough, this much is enough. Subai walked over, took a look, and comforted, you should take a rest first. He also felt very sorry for the fox-eared lady who kept stepping on the machine and spent a lot of effort. Now she was sweating all over. Yu Ying shook her head vigorously and said, it's okay, Woo, I'm not tired at all. Fox-eared lady is doing what she likes to do, so she doesn't feel tired at all. Then go wipe your face first, it's all covered in sweat, Subai said gently. Yu Ying reached out and wiped her forehead, and found that there was indeed a large amount of sweat, and said, then I'll wash my face. Subai nodded lightly and squatted down to observe the wheat grains. He found that these wheat grains were very full and very large, which was different from the wheat on the other side of the earth. It felt like the wheat grains here were smaller in size. The wheat grains on the other side of the earth are more than twice as big. It doesn't look like wheat, but more like rice. If the system hadn't told him that it was wheat, he would have really doubted it. I don't know what it tastes like when cooked, Subai murmured to himself. He felt that these wheat particles were so big, if they were used to cook wheat porridge, it would definitely be very sweet. Anyway, there are plenty of them, so let's try cooking wheat porridge to see the taste, Subai said to himself. You know how lucky it is to have wheat in primitive tribes. I thought I would eat meat often. It's not that eating meat is bad. First, you will get tired of eating it often. Second, it won't work if the body doesn't replenish enough carbohydrates. Woo, what's wrong? Yu Ying finished washing her face and heard Wu Zhe mumbling to herself when she came out. Nothing, I was just thinking we could have wheat porridge tonight, Subai said with a smile. Anyway, there is still so much wheat in the greenhouse. It was originally grown for food. Since it can be harvested, we should not try it right away. Fourth update, please support and customize.